The number of women choosing to have babies on their own has doubled in the last 5 years in Britain. But what exactly is the process of having a baby on your own? I'm here with Professor Geeta Nargund. She's the Medical Director of Create Fertility Clinic and one of Britain's leading fertility experts. So, Professor Nargund, how many single women can you estimate that you've treated during your career?
I've seen, more than 100 women at least, or even more, single women who were seeking fertility treatment. And as you quite rightly said it during your introduction, the number of single women looking for fertility treatment has gone up.
So tell me exactly, what is the process? If I want to have a baby on my own, what do I do?
Yeah, okay. Having a baby is not an easy decision to make. Okay, so it's very important that women who decide to go alone to have a baby, they discuss that with friends or family and they have the support. And then they can attend an open day in fertility clinics where they're able to get free information so that they can make informed choice. Or they can have a consultation in what we call a one-stop fertility MOT, which is within an hour they can have their fertility or egg reserve checked as well, and then they can have a consultation about where they are with their fertility and how do they move forward. And what's also important at this point to say that they need to optimize their natural fertility. In other words, optimize body weight, stop smoking if they are smoking, reduce alcohol intake. And so they need to take an improved diet to help their fertility. So if they can do that at the same time, it will help them to increase their success with fertility treatment. That is what happens first. Okay?
So how can we choose a donor? Do we even get to choose a donor? And do they have any sort of legal claim on the child?
Yes, of course a woman gets to choose the donor sperm. The woman can look at the characteristics, donor characteristics, and then the donors have undergone blood tests and genetic screening. All that is checked, so she can look at the characteristics generally they are displayed on websites.
What kinds of things? Are you talking about hair color, eye color?
Yeah.
Can you sort of decide whether he's an Ivy League graduate or, a doctor, or as opposed to a bricklayer or not?
Yeah, well, listen, it's basically, there is information. Physical characteristics, as you said, height, hair color, eye color, skin color, and then, of course, there is some information about education and job as well, okay? So clearly women choose their own donor, sperm, okay, because the sperm is already frozen in sperm bank. So we'll have frozen sperm basically once the donor has been screened and accepted as a donor.
So can a donor have any legal claim on a child?
No, but we need to know that in the UK, the law of the land states that the child, at the age of 18, can get identifying information about the donor. That's about it, okay? So there's no legal claim.
And that includes the name, date of birth?
And last known address. Okay, so there's basic identifying information.
So what if we really determine to have an anonymous donor? What happens then?
Well, in the UK, the donor cannot remain anonymous. Okay, so they need to be prepared to give their identifying information. So the sperm that is going to be brought into the UK must comply with the UK guidelines. That does mean that you can bring sperm from abroad only when the donor has agreed for identifying information to be released in compliance with the UK law is necessary. So the minute the procedure is done in the UK, it needs to be compliant with the UK law.
Right, so if you want an anonymous donor, you need to go overseas.
You'd really have to have the procedure overseas as well.
Yeah, okay. So tell me about the process then, what happens?
An informed decision is made, welfare of child is taken into account, then it depends on the woman's age, her egg reserve, and whether her tubes are open or blocked. Okay, if you have a young woman who's got good reserve, and we do need to test her fallopian tubes, which we can do with an outpatient ultrasound based test. Okay, so the tubal test can be done as an outpatient test. And once we check that her fallopian tubes are open, then clearly she can have insemination, which is called intrauterine insemination, which means she will, if she's ovulating naturally, there is no need to give her any drugs at all. So she will come for ultrasound scans 2 or 3 times to check how her egg sac or her follicle is maturing, how the lining of her uterus is maturing. And once she gets close to ovulation, either we get her to use the ovulation stick to time her ovulation, or sometimes we may give her an injection to time her ovulation. Then the sperm in the laboratory is being thawed, and then once it's thawed and prepared, ready for use, then that donor sperm is injected inside her womb at the time when she's ovulating. So that's called intrauterine insemination. That's the most common procedure used because they don't need IVF unnecessarily. And what is also very important is we don't use unnecessary, invasive, intensive, expensive procedures. Now, having said that, insemination is not the only treatment, and of course the success rates are something that the success rates are dependent on woman's age and other factors as well. And so IVF may be necessary, and IVF is necessary when tubes are blocked or not working or removed, and also in women where insemination has not been working. Okay, so you can't go on and on spending money on insemination. You do need to say, 6 cycles of insemination or 3 cycles of insemination, depending on woman's age, because we can't let her lose her egg reserve. And then if a woman has got, is much older, where time is of the essence, then she may want to go straight into IVF. Okay, so it's mainly intrauterine insemination and IVF. And in IVF, it's of course taking the eggs out. All right, so that's an outpatient procedure which is done under sedation. Then the actual fertilization happens in the laboratory. And once the embryo is created at a particular stage in its development, the embryo is put back into woman's womb. So that's what happens. That's IVF and embryo transfer.
And I guess we should just quickly discuss the idea if you're quite a bit older and your egg reserve is not great, would you be looking at using donor eggs?
If she has really undergone premature menopause or early menopause and there is really no hope with her own egg, then you're talking about double donation, which is donor egg and donor sperm. And that does happen. Yeah.
Right, so tell me about some of the costs of the different processes that we've discussed typically.
Yeah, well, you do know that it varies where, depending on which clinic you go to, because there is no standardized costs. So clearly, women should be able to get her diagnostic tests done through NHS where possible, or she could opt for something like one-stop fertility MOT. Okay, which is something that can give her a quicker diagnosis without prolonged process of investigations. So that may cost, well, I don't know, depending on where she goes. For example, we offer one-stop fertility MOT for £200, which includes a very detailed ultrasound scan to check her egg reserve, lining of the womb, fertility status, as well as a full consultation. Then there would be some blood tests necessary, which she'll have to pay for, which will be in maybe a couple of £100. And then the actual treatment, once again, depends on where she goes, okay? But intrauterine insemination procedure is generally, I don't know, anywhere between £700 to £1,000 per cycle of treatment. But, and then she needs to pay for donor sperm as well, okay, in addition to that. And that could cost anywhere between, I think we have something like £650 per ampule of donor sperm or something, but it could cost anywhere between £650 to £1,000 or a little bit more. But I can't tell you the cost in every place, but she needs to prepare for that. But if you're talking about IVF, IVF once again, depends on where you go, but you are looking at in the region of £3,500 or so. You know, although the basic cost is only around, it's under 3,000, it could go 3,500 or even above 4,000 depending on what else is necessary. But what we do is to try and keep the cost down. That commitment is there. Definitely, I have a huge commitment to keep the cost down, to make treatment safer for women, women-friendly, and not unnecessarily give them treatments or drugs. So we can't keep the cost down, but there is this cost. Yeah.
Yes, indeed, there is this cost. Fertility treatment is not cheap, is the message there, but definitely get informed and make a decision based on all the information. So Dr. Nargund is speaking at this weekend's fertility show, so if you've got more questions, head down there. It's on at Olympia and it starts on Friday. Thank you.
Thank you.